Hey guys, I'm back. I wanted to go over how to do these on a TI84 if that's what you prefer to do. Um, I went ahead and worked through this one using salt just to see, because I was personally interested to see how close the TI84 came to the same values. WebAssign should give you a cushion on some decimal points, like in the S1s, S2s. There ought to be a little wiggle room in there. Inorganic phosphorus is a naturally occurring element in all plants and animals, with concentrations increasingly progressive up the food chain. Geochemical surveys take soil samples to determine phosphorus content in parts per million. A high phosphorus content may or may not indicate an ancient burial site, food storage site, or even a garbage dump. The Hill of Tara is a very important archaeological site in Ireland. It is by legend the seat of Ireland's ancient high kings. Independent random samples from the two regions in Tara gave the following phosphorus measurements in parts per million. Assume that the population distributions of phosphorus are mound-shaped and symmetric for these two regions. In your graphing calculator, you go into Stat, Edit. In the L1 column, now I've gone ahead and entered all 12 of these entries in the L1 column. In the L2 column, I entered all 16 of the region 2 data points. For these first four boxes, means and standard deviations for each group, you go Stat, Calculate, Two Variable Statistics, and just to be safe, I'm going to tell it L1, comma, L2. Let's see, it doesn't like that. That's okay. Let's try another route. It's kind of nice to run into a few hiccups now and then. Stat, calc. Let's try one variable stats, and we'll just have to do it one column at a time. I want to tell it L1. Okay, so X bar, that matches. SX, that matches. Good. Now let's do that again. Stat, calc, one variable statistics, but this time tell it to read column 2 or list 2. Average is 738.9375. That matches perfectly. S of X, which is group 2, 212.1463, and that matches perfectly as well. Okay, as far as the confidence interval goes, we've got stat, tests, two sample t interval. Since we type the data in, we leave input as data. We want it to read list 1 and list 2. Confidence level is 95%, and that's on part B in red. We're going to leave it 0.95. As far as pooled goes, unless you're specifically told to pool your data, I would leave that on no. If you read anywhere through a problem and it says pool that your standard deviations are equal, or it tells you to pool your variances, I would switch it to no. If you're told to, then switch it to yes. Let's calculate. And we get a difference. The problem here is you may not get much of a rounding. But anyway, negative 140.2, that matches. And the upper limit is 157.3, and that matches. So that's how you would do this on your graphing calculator. As far as a proportion problem goes, we did number 8 together on the previous video using salt. Let's look at number 9. On the Navajo Reservation, a random sample of 226 permanent dwellings in the Fort Defiance region showed that 56 were traditional Navajo hogans. In the Indian Wells region, a random sample of 139 permanent dwellings showed that 19 were traditional hogans. Let P sub 1 be the population proportion of all traditional hogans in the Fort Defiance region, and let P sub 2 be the population proportion of all traditional hogans in the Indian Wells region. We're just asked to find a 90% confidence interval for the difference in the proportions. Okay. Now with this one on the calculator, it's a little bit easier to set up because you don't have to type a lot of data in. Stat test, we're going to be looking for a 2-prop interval. 2-proportion interval. 2-proportion interval. Okay, so x1 and n1, that is 56 out of 226. 56 out of 226. Whoops. $56 out of 226. The second group for the traditional was 19 out of 139. 19, 139. They want us to put a 90% confidence interval together. So that's going to be 0.90. And then we'll calculate. Okay, so we're going to get, and I'm going to write this down using 3 decimal places. Our lower limit is 0.044. See where that 8 makes a 3 a 4? And then on the upper end, it's 0.178. The 3 is not enough to change anything. So our confidence interval is 0.044 up to, whoopsie daisy, up to 0.178. Only positive numbers appear. We can say there's a higher proportion of hogans in the Fort Defiance region. And I'm going to submit. Everything's cool. And so now you have a video on how to do these with a TI84. You guys are welcome to do them with both, or salt, or the calculator. And just let me know if you have any questions that come up.